Good afternoon. Today we're going to talk about 7 tips for moving. I'm Carrie Fitz with Carrie Fitz Real Estate, and in this crazy market, there are lots of things that go on between the time you make your offer and the closing table. But that's not where it stops. Then you've got to get to the next location. So I'm going to talk to you about 7 little things that you can do to just make your life easier during that time. Tip number 1, have a parts box. This box will be the first thing that everything goes into, so it's the first thing that you take off the truck when you get to your new location, but it's the last thing that goes on the truck as it's pulling out. Things that go in there: parts for furniture, parts for putting anything that has to come apart and be put back together again. So get a little baggie, put all those little parts in it, and label it with a piece of Scotch tape or something, and put it in your parts box, along with whatever tools you're going to need: Allen wrenches, screwdrivers, Phillips heads, whatever you're going to need to put those things back together again when you get to your new location. All of those things will make your life much easier when you get to your new location. Tip number 2, plan your move as early as possible. Go ahead and vet your moving companies. Go ahead and figure out if you're going to need a storage unit. Tuscaloosa, we have certain times of the year with the students moving in and out where it becomes really difficult to get storage units sometimes. If you need a pod, find out where you can get those and make sure that you have scheduled or reserved the time for the things that you're going to need during your time. Don't wait till the last minute and make yourself crazy. Go ahead and you know when you're going to move. When you sign that offer, you have a close date on that contract. Usually it's about 30 days-ish. You should start making those plans then so that you've got those things lined up and you're not scrambling and making the whole process a lot more stressful than it needs to be. Tip number 3, make sure you know how you're going to move. Are you going to save some money and get your own boxes and your own newspaper, or however you're going to wrap up your valuables? Label your boxes. Make sure that you're not throwing random things into boxes that you don't need. Make sure that if you do need a pod, that you know how those work. You know, they deliver them, you load them up, and they take them off site somewhere. And then they pick them up and bring them to wherever you need them to be. Just make sure all those moving parts for storage, you have taken care of that in plenty of time, and you have that all lined up as well. Number 4, and this is kind of a big deal, make sure that you have turned your utilities off from where you're leaving, and even more important, that you've turned them on at the new place. There's nothing worse than getting to your new location only to find out you haven't turned the water on, or you don't have any lights, and you're moving in on a Friday night and you're not doing anything. You're going to be in the dark until Monday afternoon. Make sure that you have called the utility companies in plenty of time. It's easy, it's quick, it's not a big deal, but a lot of times in all the things that you have going on, you forget about that. Your realtor should be a great resource for those utility company contact information. They'll have all that, and we at Carrie Fitz Real Estate have a services contact list. We have everything from plumbers and roofers, and we have all the utility companies with all their phone numbers. Tip number 5, make sure you vet your moving company. One of my clients, we have certain companies on our list, and the people that are on our list are there because people have recommended them to us. I have not personally used everybody that's on that contact list, but either a buyer or a seller has said they've had a really good experience with that company or that person, so they're on the list until we find out otherwise, if we do. So make sure you vet your moving companies. We have 3 or 4 moving companies on our services contact list. I gave them to a client. The client wanted to save some money. He called all those and called some other ones and used one that was about 50% cheaper. What ended up happening was they were moving out of state, and they got to their location, and all they had were clothing in suitcases for 2 days that they were going to stay in a hotel. When they got to the hotel, they started calling to see when the truck was coming. Well, apparently this company told them that they weren't going to leave until their truck was full. The stuff that they had didn't fill the truck. 2.5 weeks later, the truck comes into town because at that time they had somebody else's belongings on that truck going to the same location or the same area. So those people ended up buying blow-up air mattresses and sheets and pillows for that, and towels and paper plates and paper glass. What they ended up spending for those 2.5 weeks in hotels and all of that kind of stuff, that they probably would have saved that if they had just used one of the vetted companies that were on the list. So make sure you do your homework, and it's the cheapest one's not always the better. Tip number 6, you're selling in one state and buying in another state. If you're doing it all locally, it's pretty easy to close on one in the morning and close on the other one in the afternoon. And if it doesn't work out for some reason, something didn't fund or something gets pushed back for some reason, it's one day, and generally you know somebody because you've lived in the same town, you're just moving to another house. If you're moving out of state, I would really suggest that you give yourself 2 or 3 days between the time that you sell your house and you buy your next house. You just don't want to have something unexpected happen and then not be able to find a place to stay. For example, if you're moving from another state to Tuscaloosa and you're doing it during football season and you didn't have a hotel lined up because you were supposed to close that afternoon, let me tell you something, you're not getting a hotel room in Tuscaloosa during game day. So just make sure that you give yourself plenty of time to close if you're moving out of state. And tip number 7, when you're packing up your things, probably before you're packing up your things, have a yard sale. Go to a consignment shop, get rid of stuff. Don't move stuff that you haven't touched in years or you're probably not going to touch. If you have a big, huge dining room table and you've probably used it 3 times in the last 4 years, it's heavy, it's big, it's going to cost you to move it. Sell it, get rid of it before you move. So think about having a yard sale and get rid of some stuff. You need to do it anyway. Don't move it and then think, why in the world did I bring this? Just go ahead and get rid of some things before you go. Thank you for watching this video. If you'd like to see any of the other videos, please go to my website at 𝐻ousethatfits.com. Go to the video drop down and hit that subscribe button and you won't miss another one. I'm Carrie Fitz with Carrie Fitz Real Estate, and we'll see you next time.